Hey, hello. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. How y'all doing? Rough day. I'm live. It might be a commercial, so it might be a minute. All right. There we are. Hey, everyone. Feels like a day of mourning, doesn't it? I'm not seeing any comments from you all yet that you're seeing me live. So let me know if you're seeing me live. Huh. I'm not seeing any comments. What's going on? There you are. All right. Awesome. We've got Australia here. Hi, Linda. It's good to see you. Francisca. Hey, Joe. Good to see you. I'm glad you made it. Arlene, hi. So I saw Richard here. Thank you, Richard, for being here. He is our Hi, Richard. He's our only moderator. Does anyone else want to be a moderator? Raise your hand or say yes if you want to be a moderator, and I'll make you a moderator right now so you can help Richard. Anybody want to be a moderator? Arlene, excellent. You want to be a moderator? Thank you. Yes, you're managing. You can review and remove chat messages. All right. Thank you, Arlene. You are now a moderator if you accept that responsibility. I really don't know today. Uh, yeah, how it might be. Yeah. Thank you, Arlene. You have the wrench. You're a moderator. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Awesome. Um, hey, Washington Wild Bill. Who says I'm a breath of fresh air? Hi, Sue. I know. How many of you are alone today and just kind of feeling hopeless? Hi, Doxy RV Mama. So how many of you, Newark, Delaware? Hi, Edwin, in the Gulf Shores. Hey, JC Buffalo Gal. Good to see you. So are a lot of you alone today and just feeling alone, but you're okay, Richard? How's your mom? How's she handling all this? And Wild Bill had been alone for decades. Watching Satan. You watched it, Doxy? Yeah, I boycotted. I actually, in preparing for this live stream, I wanted to do a little research. I have been doing research, and, there was a news article that came up on my feed this morning, and I'm just reading the headlines about the inauguration, and, I wanted to go back and find the news article, and I started to enter his name in a search engine. I'm like, "I'm not even gonna do that." Because, every time you mention his name or enter his name, that stuff is tracked, and I don't want any indication that I'm thinking about him today. I don't want his people to say, "Yeah, your name was Googled more than anything else today." So I refrain from doing that. Your mom's doing good. Okay, good. Had to watch it, watching an accident. Yeah, I didn't wanna watch it. I know a lot of us. Tracy is alone and depressed. Uh, Gypsy Moon, I chose to celebrate Martin Luther King. So that's what this video is about today. I've been spending some time putting together some history for you today. That's what I love, and that's what I do a lot on this channel. And I want to share some stories about Martin Luther King, but I also want to share some stories about some other revolutionaries. I tried to find people who were truly revolutionary, and in fact, what I ended up coming up with was, not revolutionary activists, and speaking of activists, I wanna RIP to Cecil Richards. You guys heard that Cecil Richards passed today, 67 years old, and if you don't know, she has been a decades-long president of Planned Parenthood. I wanna talk about her a little bit more later, but she has been on the front lines trying to keep abortion safe and accessible for all of us, and I find it really interesting that she died. On the day she had brain cancer, and she had been, dealing with that for a long time, but I find it symbolic, interesting that on the day that a rapist someone who has literally violated women more than once, many times, and you happen to be watching this, you're someone who voted for him and doesn't believe that, a jury of his peers, and juries are approved by both lawyers. His lawyer approved this jury, approved the venue, believing that he could get a fair trial, and this jury found him liable for rape. A jury of people found him liable. That was approved by his attorney. So I have something touching my head. So he's a rapist. You know, it's a civil trial, not a criminal trial. So we can't say he was convicted. We can if we want, but he was found liable. He is a rapist. And this is the only one that's ever gone to trial. There are many, many other women who have accused him of it. And I just think it's interesting, fate, the universe, whatever, that Cecil Richards chose to pass today. Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, also the, 34 felonies. Yeah. Catherine, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that for a cup of coffee. Yes, I'm like, I've already drank my 2 cups of coffee, and I want another. And, hey, Brian. Hi, Carol. Yeah, Carol found her death symbolic as well, a universal day of mourning. It is. And, yeah, I'm here. It's disgusting. It's a tragedy. I don't know what to feel. I feel everything, everything, terror. But let's talk about Martin Luther King today because um oh, sorry about the commercials. Let me see if I can change the commercials while we're live. Hold on one second. I'll get rid of the mid rolls while we're live. Let YouTube do mid rolls. Concert. Oh, see, they're not even. Wow. They don't even allow me to turn off mid rolls. That's stupid. Oh, you know what? I'm going to turn off monetization for now. So I'm going to turn off monetization. Remind me at the end to turn it back on. So there won't be any ads during this. How does that sound? All right. I want to talk about Martin Luther King today. I don't want to focus on him. His negativity, his sociopathy, his narcissism has dictated have monopolized all of our attention since the beginning of time. I grew up in New York. I remember hearing, New Jersey is not very far from New York, and he had all the casinos. I remember him in the papers back then. And we all knew he was a slime ball and a grease ball. But the one thing and I think it's his narcissism, the one thing he is very good at is marketing himself. So let's not give any more energy to him today. Okay, because that's what he does. He wants us talking about him. He wants us afraid. He wants to be the center of attention. This is a sociopathic narcissist. So let's focus on. Oh, Tina's at Schooly Palooza. Nice. Let's focus. Hi, Jody. Good to see you. Ah, you're a channel member. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being a member of this channel. I appreciate it. So let's focus on Martin Luther King. Let's focus on, instead of focusing on him, let's just focus on people who have made a difference. And I hope that this can inspire us, all of us, to find ways to make a difference. But before we talk about Martin Luther King, I want to share something with you. I was going to do it in a video, and maybe I will do a short video after this. They are one quick thing about him and his agenda. They are talking about ICE raids. And first, it's going to be the first one they're talking about is in Chicago. They are going to start doing raids to round up illegal immigrants, and we all know those of us who have studied history and don't have our head up our asses, we all know what that is going to end up being. Anybody with brown skin is going to end up getting round up, put in camps, disappearing, who knows. Remember how he fumbled the border before and separated children from their families, and these kids never found their mothers ever again? That was a clusterfuck. Oh, and also there's going to be a lot of profanity and a lot of fuck bombs in this video. So I don't think anybody here cares. I'm not censoring myself. I say fuck a lot in my real life, and I'm going to be saying it a lot today. But remember how he fumbled that? Imagine what this mass deportation, camps are going to look like. It's going to be a mess. People are going to disappear and people are going to die. And I want to share something with you now. And I don't want everybody to panic, but there are things that if you have brown skin, if you have a Latin sounding last name, if you know anybody, and I'm not talking like even looking Mexican, they're going to be rounding up everybody. If your skin is even a little darker than mine, and especially if you have a Latin last name, you need to take some precautions now to protect yourself. And I want you to share this. I'll do a video maybe today with everyone. Number one, have a copy of your birth certificate. And if you can, I don't even think I have my original birth certificate, but in order to prove you are a citizen, order a copy of your original birth certificate if you do not have it. And that means usually calling the hospital or the state. That I think when I applied for my passport years ago, I had to contact the state I was born in. Maybe I don't think the hospital's there anymore. But anyway, I think it was the state. Get an original copy of your birth certificate if you don't have it. And this is probably good advice for everybody, but especially if you have brown skin, especially if you have a last name that sounds Latin. Rivera, Carlos, that's, or even a first name, right? Carlos, Garcia, Morales. If you haven't, you know what the Latin names are. Get a copy of your birth certificate. If you don't have one, your original, make sure you have your original, and then make copies of it and probably put it in your wallet. Carry it with you all the time. Get a passport. Even if you don't think you're going to travel, get a US passport. These are the two legitimate forms of identification to prove you are an American citizen. So I would get both, because you can't it's I wouldn't carry your original birth certificate with you everywhere you go. Once you have it, put it in a safe place, and you're going to need that to apply for a passport. So, if you are of Latin descent, even if you're eighth generation Latin American at this point, if you have a last name or your skin is brown, there's a really good chance you might get rounded up. You need to be able to prove on the spot that you're an American citizen. So I would get both an original copy of your birth certificate and a passport. And it can take, I think, up to 2 months to get a passport. So I would do it now. And this is a video I'm sorry I meant to do after the election and I forgot. Everyone, Catherine, yes, everyone should have a passport, whether you plan on using it or not. But especially the way things are going, you may you may not have any plans right now to cross the border, but it might come to a situation where you have to, and you might be forced to. So I think everybody should go ahead and get a passport. But especially, like I said, if you might be mistaken for an illegal, and they're going to round up everybody. It happened under Hitler. It happened under Mussolini. It happened under Stalin. It happened under Lenin. And I don't mean to scare you, but these are just some precautions that everybody needs to take. State to Statistics Office. Thank you, April. Just did it was a city you were born in. Okay. Oh my God. The website for amnesty and request for entry into the United States was shut down the moment he was sworn in. Asian ladies are immigrants also. Yes, excellent point. There are many other immigrants, but they're going to go after Mexican, South American, and Central American. Nobody's focusing on Asian ladies right now. They're all focused on south of the border, changing the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. It's this anti Mexican, Central and South American. And I should just say Mexican because I think most Trump supporters don't know the difference. Mexico, by the way, is part of North America. But they're looking at everybody south of the border. They're not looking at, immigrants from Finland or from even Asia. They're looking at south of the border, everybody south of us. So share that information. If you know somebody who might be at risk of getting rounded up, call them, email them, ask them if they have original just we need this is how the little things that we can do to help our families, to help um our neighbors, to help our community, and especially and children too. If there are children who fall under these categories that I've been talking about, make sure those children have original birth certificates. Maybe apply for passports for the children as well. Don't forget about the children. Okay. Judy, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you, Judy. And thank you again, Catherine, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. I haven't heard but anything about Muslims this time around. Last time it was all about the Muslims, but probably that's a fair point. Everybody who may not look like what white nationalists think an American should look like, everybody should probably do this. Everybody. I'm lucky. Well, I used to be blondish hair and blue eyes. Now I'm gray hair and blue eyes. So I'm probably safe, at least from that. But, I'm an outspoken old woman. So who knows? They might be coming for me next. But that's a fair point. Everybody who doesn't look like, what's the word? What's the word Hitler used for white? You know, Aryan. Everybody who does not look Aryan should probably follow these steps. But they are going after the Mexicans. And we'll call them, well, I know I'm not going to call them all Mexicans. Mexicans and Central and South Americans. Anglo and Aryan. I was looking for Aryan, but ah, Seraphin, thank you for gifting a membership. Oh my gosh, thank you. Oh, Susan M, you got a that's so cool. Thank you. Susan M, you now got a membership free from Seraphin. Thank you. And I don't think foreign born spouses are going to be allowed. I don't know. I That's a good question. I don't know. Thank you, Seraphin. All right, so I needed to talk about that. Now let's talk a little bit about Martin Luther King. So I have a lot of notes here, so I'm going to be reading for a while. But we all know that Martin Luther King was a leader in the civil rights movement in the 1960s. And what he is most known for and celebrated for is that he adopted nonviolent resistance to achieve equal rights for Black Americans. And in fact, he won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964 for that. So he was at odds with Malcolm X. Have any of you ever read Malcolm X? I read Malcolm X in college. He was at odds with Malcolm X because Malcolm X and his movement, the Brotherhood of Islam, they were no, the Nation of Islam, NOI, Malcolm X was all about the Nation of Islam, which was Islam and also Black supremacy. And I think whenever you put a race like Black or white in front of supremacy, I feel like there's automatically a little bit of an element of violence to that. And Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were often at odds because of that. Martin Luther King, a pastor and a brilliant orator who, by the way, got a C in public speaking in college. He got a C in public speaking, but one of the most famed and celebrated orators of our time, and he got a C in college. So just goes to show you. But Malcolm X, yeah, they were often at odds because Malcolm X, it's kind of like Marxism. There are two different schools of theory around how to bring Marxism or socialism or communism to a society. There's a violent revolutionary overthrow of the status quo. There's also a peaceful way to do it. And unfortunately, what we have seen throughout history, because boys, patriarchy, we've only seen the violent revolutionary kind instead of the peaceful revolutionary kind. Interestingly enough, though, in the end, Malcolm X did start kind of coming around. He ended up getting assassinated by his Islamic people. They were mad at him for leaving the Nation of Islam because he started kind of more veering more toward Martin Luther King and seeing that violence wasn't the answer. So Martin Luther King is celebrated for nonviolent protest and nonviolent revolution, if you will. And he won the Peace Prize for that. Couple other things Martin Luther King did is he helped to establish the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which is an organization that was dedicated to full equality of African Americans in all aspects of American life. So remember, we're talking about the civil rights era of the 1960s. We're talking about the Jim Crow era when we had segregated water fountains and segregated bathrooms and segregated lunch counters. And you've all seen those pictures of Black Americans sitting at lunch counters and getting bullied by these toxic white men and the fire hoses on them. All of this was happening, and Martin Luther King was still demanding, no matter the violence aimed at you, we must remain peaceful. And I'm going to talk about this in a minute when I wrap all this up. But on December 1st, 1955, in Montgomery, when Rosa Parks, and I'm going to talk about Rosa Parks here in a minute, but when she refused to give her seat on the bus to a white passenger and was arrested for violating the city's segregation laws, even though it was on the books that you're not allowed to do that constitutionally. But following the incident, a group of civil rights activists decided to contest racial segregation in the city's public bus system, and the activists formed the Montgomery Improvement Association to boycott the public transportation system. King, who had been a pastor of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, was chosen to lead the group. He, Martin Luther King, led a boycott using nonviolent approach even though his home was bombed. He stuck to his nonviolent approach. For more than a year, listen to this, more than a year, people protested segregation in the city by refusing to ride the city buses. Finally, in late 1956, the US Supreme Court ruled that segregation on public buses was unconstitutional. So there's a couple things there that I want to talk about. This group of people came together to fight this discrimination where if a black person was on a bus and a white person came along and said, "Hey, I want that seat," the black person had to get up and move to the back of the bus. And Rosa Parks wasn't actually the person who started this. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Rosa Parks became kind of the figurehead, the spokesperson for the NAACP. I think it was the NAACP and all the other groups who decided to protest this. They had to boycott the bus for a year before somebody paid attention and the Supreme Court overturned segregation on the buses. So, my question to you is what would you be willing to give up for a year? Could you give up Amazon, Facebook? Revolution doesn't come without sacrifice. So, imagine all these people who did not take the bus for a year. They had to find other ways to get to work. Maybe they had to walk and it took an hour to walk to work. Maybe they had to buy a bicycle. Maybe they had to share rides with someone. Maybe they even had to change jobs. But this was their level of commitment to a cause they believed in. So, what would you be willing to give up for a year to fight for what is right? All right. So people are getting rid of Facebook and Threads. I'm not sure what's happening here. Interstate 91 is closed between exits 27 and Newport in Orleans after sources tell Border Patrol agent was shot. Oh my God. Oh boy. I'll give up whatever to stop the chaos. It's these are just things that I wanted to share this because I think that Martin Luther King is an excellent example of what's possible, of how hard things can get, and the strength of the human spirit. I think a lot of us have taken for granted the fights that were fought before us, and we felt we wouldn't have to fight. You know, in the era of Martin Luther King in the 50s and 60s, Black Americans never felt that. They still never felt that they had enough. And I think the problem is, I think even women, white women, I think we felt, well, I don't think we had Roe, but we were still fighting for equal wages and stuff like that. But I think for some reason we thought all the heavy lifting was already done and all we had to do was vote and be keyboard warriors. And I think the lesson here is the fight is never over. That when we rest, there are always going to be power hungry evildoers, sociopaths and narcissists and billionaires who want to take those rights away because they benefit from that. And even when we become a full egalitarian society, who knows, 100 years from now, whatever, and women are paid the same as men, and maybe we live in a matriarchy, even then the fight won't be over because there are going to be dark forces in the corner who want to take that away. Unless we get rid of toxic masculinity and the patriarchy, then maybe it'll change. Remember Barbie? Who saw Barbie? But then not, right? Because they see the possibility of them being in control and them having everything. So and again, the lesson here is that the fight is not over. The fight was never over. We were brainwashed into believing the fight was over, that the heavy lifting was done. Am I making any sense? Is this resonating? Do you want to hear more? Ah, thank you, Seraphin. For Ms. Jobs was gifted a membership. Thank you, Seraphin. I appreciate that. Yes, you're all so this is resonating. Is this helping? I got more. Okay. Patriarchy is definitely on the march. Yeah. I swear to God, I want to wear my fuck the patriarchy t-shirt every day. Okay. So more on Martin Luther King Jr. Oh, let's talk about Rosa Parks. So many of you know that Rosa Parks was not the first woman to refuse to give up her seat, right? You all know that she wasn't the first? Yes? No? I know, exactly, Becky. If patriarchy was done, Biden wouldn't have had to ensure sexism. So some of you, oh, hi, Tammy. Oh, hi, Tammy. Hi, Tammy. How are you? I don't know. There's something comforting and almost sad about seeing you here. Just a blast from my past. And yesterday was the anniversary of John passing, so it's kind of been on my mind. But anyway, it's good to see you, Tammy. All right. No, you guys don't know this story. Yay, I get to tell you something. Okay. So I had heard this. Hi, Tammy. Yeah. Um, so I had heard this before, but I watched Belle of the Ranch this morning, Bo's wife from Bo of the Fifth Column. I That was the first video I watched this morning about, I guess the right wing is freaking out about this whole story because they're thinking now it's a conspiracy theory. So I knew that Rosa Parks wasn't the first, and maybe I heard the story before, but I dug in a little bit because I wanted to know more details. And Belle actually told me some of the details. There was a woman in 1955, so a full year before Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat and got arrested. It was 1955. Remember this name because this is important. This is the history we need to speak. This is the history we were never taught. And there is a reason for this whole story. Her name was Claudette Coven. She was a high school student, and I don't know what city it was. Oh, okay, I didn't write all this down. I don't know what city it was, but it was Claudette Coven. Cloven. Let me get her name right. Hang on. Cloven. In 1955, a high school student was sitting on a bus. A black man, I mean, I'm sorry, a white man, I think, got on the bus and said, "I want your seat." She said, "No." And he raised a fuss. She's like, "It is my constitutional right to sit here. I am not giving up my seat." She was dragged off the bus. She was arrested for uh, resisting arrest, for assaulting a police officer, and for violating the segregation laws. Yeah, she was 15 years old. 15. The NAACP, all of the activists around the area, including all those that Martin Luther King were involved in, got a whiff of this story, and they decided to use this to gain rights for Black Americans and to end segregation. But they couldn't use Claudette as the face of this movement. This is the part I had heard before. I didn't know why. I thought maybe Rosa Parks was better looking or something, but because she was a young teenager, they didn't want to use her as the face of this fight. And within a few months of her arrest, she's a 15-year-old black high school student. She got pregnant by an older man. They couldn't use her. The media, the courts would have an unwed 15. Well, that was weird. I'm back. I'm back. That was very, very weird. All of a sudden, it wasn't on my end. I'm on wasn't my YouTube software just cut me off. That was very weird. So while I was gone though, Seraphin, I saw that you gifted more memberships. Joe, you gifted 5 memberships. Oh, Richard Thomas got a free membership from Joe. Oh, thank you. And Deborah got one, and Janet got one, and Joleva got one. Thank you, Joe. That is so sweet of you. Thank you, thank you. All right. So back to Claudette. So Claudette, they knew she would get uh, pulled over the coals by the courts would have dismissed the case just because she was a teenage unwed black mother. Remember, we're talking 1955. So they wanted though to take an example from her. There's a whole story from her though that she felt a little bit like she was kind of thrown under the bus and that her story was hijacked. Unfortunately, like at first, he was really excited that they were going to use her example to further this cause and end segregation. But in the end, everybody gave Rosa Parks all the credit, and she was erased from history. And we're now starting to bring her back. There are more and more stories about her. But that's exactly what happened. They chose Rosa Parks to reenact this I'm not going to give up my seat on the bus. Rosa Parks, who now people are saying, well, this is all made up. This is all a conspiracy. Rosa Parks had a car. She didn't need to be taking the bus. How many people have cars and still take the bus? Anyway, that's a whole other story. Watch Belle of the Ranch and her take on the right wing now calling this a big conspiracy theory because they want to erase history. They want to erase Black history. They want to erase Black women's voices. They want to nullify it. They want to act like it didn't happen, and they're going to use lies and disinformation to do that. And that's part of the reason I wanted to share all these stories with you today. Our voice is our power. We need to keep sharing the truth. We need to keep sharing real history. We need to keep digging and digging and digging and finding real history. Because even when we think we're reading real history, no one ever taught about Claudette Clovis. No one ever taught us about her. She should have been in the history books, but we got a whitewashed version. Was it black? I don't know, but a different version. Um, And even if it was blackwashed, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, I hope that's not offensive, you know, because they knew they had to use Rosa Parks, who was more respectable in the eyes of the white court, or their cause wouldn't have even been heard or seen, right? So Rosa Parks became the face of this woman not giving up her seat on the bus. And in the end, because of the boycott after Rosa Parks and because Martin Luther King got involved, a year later, the Supreme Court ended segregation on the city buses. So Claudette Clovis definitely had her place in history, and we need to remember her and voices like hers and her courage. 15 years old, a high school student on a bus full of people, said no to a white man who was probably standing over her, trying to make her give up her seat. And she said, "Fuck you." She didn't really say that. She would have gotten maybe she did. I'm sure she did in her head, but she just said, "No, it's my constitutional right to sit here." She got arrested. She probably got beat up a little bit. They accused her of beating up an officer, and she went to jail. She went to jail. So again, when we think we're done because we've voted blue our whole lives and maybe went to a march in 1990 and we think we've done enough, have we? Have we done enough? Think about Claudette Clovis. Think about Martin Luther King. Think about John Lewis, who walked over the Pettus Bridge in Selma with Martin Luther King. They got beat, they got sprayed with fire hoses. John Lewis was beat to a pulp and jailed. So when we think, "I'm tired of fighting," have we really fought? And that's why I wanted to share Martin Luther King and all this history today. That's right, say her name, Claudette Clovis. Well, I don't know, I mean, she said, "No," what I read is she said, "No, this is my constitutional right to stay here," and they dragged her off the bus. I know she didn't say, "Fuck you." I'm sorry if I'm not enough for you. If Alright. Alright, so, um So Martin Luther King in 1957, along with other civil rights leaders, I told you first he established the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and then in 57 they established the Southern Christian. Oh, the Southern again. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, same thing. So they use the Southern Christian Leadership Conference to help local organizations carry out civil rights activities in the South. And then near the end of the Birmingham campaign, King and other civil rights leaders joined together to organize the historic March on Washington. We saw a big march on Washington this last weekend. On August 28th, 1963, due in a large part to the organization efforts of Martin Luther King and other civil rights leaders, they had a huge interracial group of more than 200,000 people that gathered peacefully near the Lincoln Memorial to demand equal justice for all citizens. Prominent civil rights leaders were there. His I Have a Dream speech was delivered that day. A speech in public speaking. And his speech called for equality and freedom and became one of the defining moments of the civil rights movement, and also one of the most popular speeches in history. So these are some of the things that Martin Luther King did. And I think that what we can draw from his example is in how he made change. Now remember, a lot of us, especially us white people, are thinking, America's done. America is has fallen. We've gone back 50 years. It's never been this bad. It's gonna be bad. It has been bad for other groups. Black Americans, I mean, during the Jim Crow era and of course the slavery era, this country has been pretty horrible to other to groups of people who don't look like me. Even to women. I mean, this country's been horrible to women, but we had Japanese internment camps, right? During World War II. We had the horrible civil rights era where people were murdered and lynched and beat up and imprisoned. Anybody know, without Googling, does anybody know how many times Martin Luther King Jr. was put in jail? Claudette Clovis, yes. Yeah, exactly, Marianne. Mary Jane, May Jan. None of us were taught this in school. I know. We are not taught real history. It's true. History is written by the victors. History is written by the winners. And that's why it is so important for us all. Our voice is our power. We need to keep telling these stories to anybody who will listen, whether they want to listen or not. This is important. This is who we are. And when all of us are sitting here going, "Well, the world sucks. How did we get here?" Remember just 50 years ago, it was like this for other groups of people in this country who were willing to sit on a bus and say no to an older man, who were willing to get dragged in the streets, who were willing to go to jail. Jesse Raven, yes, close, close. Martin Luther King was put in jail 29 times. 29 times he was arrested. I'm sure 29 of those were bullshit charges. In fact, one of them, he went to jail. Martin Luther King was put in jail for driving 30 in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. So he was put in jail on made up charges because that's what they do to black men still. Yeah, the prison industrial complex, cheap and free labor. So slavery never really ended. Um, but yeah, on made up charges, he went to jail 29 times. So again, and this is I'm telling myself this as much as you guys, how much have we really fought? You know, this a pastor, went to jail 29 times. John Lewis got beat to a pulp. Claudette Clovis got dragged off a bus at 15 and put in jail. We haven't really fought. It's sad that we still have to fight. Yes, I get that. But we haven't really done the work. We've gotten complacent. Voting is not enough. Sending money off to ACLU or NAACP is not a, and that's kinda what I wanted to leave you with today and maybe inspire you. I will be talking more. I mean, that doesn't mean you have to go out and, start getting arrested or put yourself in harm's way. But, he was put in jail for being a black man speaking the truth, and he was murdered for that as well, right? He was assassinated for the very same thing, for being a black man speaking truth. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the truth. I'm buffering again. I'm actually watching myself and I'm not buffering. Alright. So, let me get back to my little agenda here. Alright. Let's talk about another I don't it is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, but this video is about revolutionaries and activists and people who risked everything to make change. And I've already demonstrated how Martin Luther King did that through his, peaceful protest. And I want to wrap all this up with some lessons here and some things that we can walk away with in a minute. But I also want to talk about Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was another leader who risked everything to help other people. She escaped slavery in Maryland when she was 27 years old. On her own, alone, she left the only life she knew, that of an enslaved person. She left and navigated her way to Philadelphia, 100 miles, using paths and back roads, navigating by the stars at night, 27 years old, and made Philadelphia in her freedom. But that wasn't enough for her. Her freedom wasn't enough. And I think this is what is is wrong with 74 million Americans today. If it doesn't affect me, I don't care. If Harriet Tubman were a MAGA, she'd be like, or if she was of the same mentality. I got mine. I'm free. Fuck everybody else. They can figure it out on their own. It's those other enslaved people that are my problem. Fuck them. Let them figure it out on their own. But no, she went back. She made that trip back like 15 times, 16 times. She made that trip back to Maryland to help others. Her family, her parents, her brothers and sisters. I think she had 9, 8 or 9 brothers and sisters. A couple of her brothers and sisters, by the way, did not want to be free. They would not go with her. That's the power of indoctrination. That's the power of that. What's that mentality of wanting to stay with your abuser? Stockholm? Is that Stockholm syndrome? Yeah, she had no problems arming herself, but she was also like a lumberjack, and I mean, she had all kinds of like great skills that she taught herself. But yeah, she went back 16 times. She made that 200, 150, 200-mile trip along the Underground Railroad like 15, 16 times to help other people who wanted to be free. You want to talk about a revolutionary. And then throughout her life, she continued to house people on their way to freedom by being a stop on the Underground Railroad. And you might remember, I think it was last year, I visited her home in upstate New York, near Seneca Falls, yeah, in upstate New York. Harriet Tubman, had a place where she was a stop on the Underground Railroad. So, I think the message that we get from Harriet Tubman that I think is lost on too many Americans today is she didn't stop when she got hers. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. Liberals, there are these memes going around that MAGA only cares about what's good for them, while liberals are like, well, what about everybody else? I'm not trans, but I care about trans rights, right? I'm not a black woman, but I care about black women rights. I'm not an immigrant, legal or otherwise, but I care about immigrants because I care about other people. And I'm willing to use my voice, to use whatever I have to be able to ensure everybody has their humanity. Everybody has their rights. And that's what Harry. Yeah. Some streaming software. At least now I know how to reconnect. But I'm back. Somebody said and said this is inspiring to hear this. Good. I'm so glad. That's the reason I wanted to do this because it inspired me. It helps me realize that people throughout history have gone through hard times and they have come out of it. Some people didn't survive it, of course. Sometimes it goes on for decades or even centuries. Think about all of the enslaved people who were born to it and never saw freedom. Think about, sorry, I'm emotional. I'm surprised it took me this long to get teary eyed. But think about all the people who came before us who fought, who died and fought, or who died, and they all helped move us forward. So it's not over for us. We can all do something. And I'll talk again in a minute about doing something. Um, but again, I wanted to share this because I think we can get some ideas and I think we can get some inspiration from these stories of these extremely brave revolutionaries who risked everything. Martin Luther King's house was bombed. He was assassinated. Rosa Parks, um, 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 uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, not resisted, that's the only word that's coming, risked. She risked everything to go back to where she was enslaved 16 times to help other people. I've said for a long time that democracy is not a spectator sport. I've said this, I think, since college. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Freedom is not a spectator sport. There are always going to be people who want to take it away from us. And now we need to take back what's ours. So, all right. What are y'all thinking? How y'all feeling? Let me check in with you. I've been reading for a long time and telling stories. So let me check in with y'all. How y'all doing? Yeah, Seneca Falls though is problematic in that it's a whitewashed version of women's civil rights. If you dig a little bit deeper into Seneca Falls, it was a high class white ladies who excluded the black women, Sojourner Truth and a few others who had been out on the front lines already fighting for women's rights, and they were excluded from Seneca Falls for the most part. In fact, they were told to get the back of the line when they marched. In a yeah, true story. So always don't take anything for face value. Remember, history was written by the victors. The victors being white men and women, white men and women. So every time, everything you know about history, you might wanna dig a little deeper. So Seneca Falls is problematic. Who are today's leaders on the forefront of equality and freedom? That's a great question. That's a really good question. Maybe you. Maybe you. Ida B. Wells, yes, another Damping figure. Hey, Craig, yes, Ida B. Wells, she was the other one I was trying to think of. It was both Ida B. Wells and Sojourner Truth, who were out there fighting for rights for all women. They were a big part of the women's rights and women's suffrage suffrage? Or was that later? I think women's suffrage movement, and were excluded from the Seneca Falls thing. Seneca Falls was all, rich white ladies. Look at research that. Actually, didn't I do a video on it? Or I talked about it. I think I did a video on it on this channel, and, I got a couple white ladies very upset. Couple white ladies read me the riot act, which I think is interesting. Masha P. Johnson. Lola says, "I can't talk about how I feel. I get my post removed. My circle of friends is getting smaller. I'm so sad." For my different different. Good way to rephrase that. Um, it's hard. I saw a clip. Anybody watch what's his name? Jordan, not Jordan. The guy who goes to the guy on Comedy Central, Jordan, who goes to all the Trump rallies. I love him. He's brilliant. He's so good. What's his name? He's on the Daily Show too sometimes. What's his name? Tell me his name. Um, Jordan Klepper. God, I love him. Isn't he brilliant? But I saw a show he did a couple nights ago. Yeah, it's Jordan Clapper. Thank you, Linda. And, it was an outtake, like a between the scenes, someone asked if he'd ever met a Trump supporter, and he talked about this guy he keeps seeing at all the Trump rallies in a suit that looks like a brick wall. He literally wears a brick suit because he's in love with the wall concept. And he talks about how he met this guy, they got stuck in the airport together, and they talked for 3 hours. And I don't know if he said this because he was on camera. You know, I wondered, but he said they had a good conversation. It started off a little rocky, and he said, "You know, the guy's not an idiot." He said, "You know, after talking to the guy for several hours, he was not an idiot. He was a smart guy." And I know a lot of us want to keep saying that MAGA are dumb, uninformed, but are they all? I don't know. That's a hard one, and I don't want to keep calling people dumb. It's just not nice. I I don't know. Christine, I don't know if you were here for the beginning of my live stream, but I would reach out to your Ecuadorian, neighbors and make sure they have all their paperwork in order. They're uninformed. Yes, they are uninformed, and unfortunately, a lot of them, especially more religious ones, are susceptible to, fake news. They're and the people who only watch Fox News, they're susceptible to, uh propaganda, to lies, and yeah, you're right. I think ignorant is not the same as stupid. Ignorant and uninformed. However, and I think I've said this before, isn't a sign of intelligence curiosity? But I guess in the vacuum chambers that we live in these days with social media, even if you are curious, if you're a right-wing person who only watches Fox News, they're not researching. I don't know, but they go out and research, and all they're getting is stuff that aligns, confirmation bias. We are living in such I was journaling this morning, so one thing I'm doing for self-care is journaling. I haven't journaled in years, and I'm journaling now, and one of the thing that I wrote this morning is George Orwell is, like, cringing in his grave. We are literally living in 1984. Literally, like, not literally, of course, but we are living in 1984 where nobody knows what the truth is. I know what it is, but a lot of people don't know what the truth is. I mean, Trump could tell them that he is black, and they would believe it. It's sad. Bye, Becky. Thank you for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's the algorithm, yeah. Yeah, I know. Now my mic sounds funny? Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello, can you hear me? All right. I don't think my mic sounds funny. I'm listening to myself. Jesse, I was taught to see color, to understand color, to know color. Wow. That's really good. These people who say I don't see color, you know, I don't see color. Uh, well, I had an echo there for a minute because I turned it on. I tested this before I started my live stream today, and everything was working just fine. My microphone issues, were worked out. Okay, I sound good. The echo was because I had my sound on for a minute so I could hear myself. Alright, thank you, Arlene. Alright, so, my lessons telling you all of these stories today. We're diving a little bit more into the history of the civil rights movement of Martin Luther King. My goal was to have some takeaways. What are our takeaways from the life experiences of the legacy that Martin Luther King left us? Number one, number one, are you taking notes? Get a pen, like a college professor. Number one is never give don't give up. And voting is not enough. Too many of us, myself included, have been under the impression that if I vote, I'm doing enough participating in democracy. Voting is not enough. I saw a couple posts on social media earlier today. I voted in blue in every election. I voted blue in every election, and I'm done. It's not enough. Going out every 4 years or every 2 years to cast a ballot is not enough. Democracy is not a spectator sport. You need to be out there. You need to be the quarterback. You need to carry the ball, and you need to deliver it to everybody else so we can get over the goal line. Hey, that was a pretty good analogy. Metaphor? I always get them confused. That was pretty good, huh? Democracy is not guaranteed. Exactly. Voting is not enough. So, the lessons from Martin Luther King and these other revolutionaries that I've been talking about, voting is not enough. Imagine if Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, Claudette Clovis, even Rosa Parks said they were sitting on the bus. Imagine Claudette Clovis or Harriet Tubman even, or Martin, well, let's use those 2 for an example. They're sitting on the bus and they're tired. They've been working all day. Their legs hurt. They're tired. They're sitting on the bus, and some white man comes along and says, "Get up, I want your seat." And they were like, "I voted. My job is done. I voted," and got up and moved anyway. Everything's gonna work out because I voted. They got up and moved to the back of the bus and said, "It's gonna be okay because I voted." Or to be mad, "I voted. It shouldn't be this way. I voted blue in every election. I shouldn't have to sit in the back of the bus." And then shut up and then vote blue next time and be mad because you didn't get your way. Imagine if Claudette or Rosa Parks said voting is enough. Imagine if Martin Luther King said voting is enough. I don't need to be out here organizing, speaking because I voted. Number 2, organize. Every single one of these people, even Claudette Clovis, who kind of got left behind a little bit, but Martin Luther King, huge, one of his greatest strengths was his ability to organize. He organized, uh, I have to go back to the names. He organized people. He organized around institutions, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And also we could throw Gloria Steinem in here too. And again, another white woman, and they're probably, Shirley Chisholm, she ran for office, so she made change. But uh, I read a couple books by Gloria Steinem. Her greatest gift was her ability to bring people together, to organize. So, lesson number 2 from all these stories today, Rosa Parks was an organizer. She was an activist. She was involved in all of these coalitions. Is that the right word? I'm like, uh, to organize people. None of us can do this alone. Rosa Parks would not have gotten rid of segregation on the buses if she had to do it alone. Claudette Clovis wouldn't have done it if she had done this alone. It took community, it took organizing to bring it all together, to bring the people together, to boycott the bus system, the entire bus system for a whole year. So organizing is the second lesson. How can we organize in our community to make change? Deb, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you doing this research and your reminder that democracy needs our participation. Thank you. Yay. Thank you. I'm so glad this is resonating. This is how I get out of my funk. I do something that I feel like is inspiring and helping other people. So how are you going to make a difference? What are you going to do to feel like you're taking action? And again, I'm not done yet. I got more. No, I'm not reading chats. I'm busy. All right. Um, Number 3, I think the biggest lesson and something we are going to need to remind ourselves, but probably more likely everybody else, is that Martin Luther King achieved everything he achieved through nonviolence. Does anybody remember, I think it was after January 6th, under the first FOTUS. You know, we're calling him FOTUS, right? Felon of the United States. Remember when there was, gosh, remind me if I'm wrong. I thought it was after January 6th, but I'm not sure. There when he went to the Capitol and held up the Bible, what was that? When he went and held up the Bible. Robert Reich, love Robert Reich. He's been one of my go-tos. So, I can't believe, okay, I'm not gonna go off on any rants about shit today. 2 days before, oh, that was 2 days before January 6th, but I remember it being this whole big protest, and he wanted to declare martial law, right? And we were all on social media begging people, I can't remember what it was, begging people to not get violent. They want us to get violent. Martin Luther King knew this. He knew that they wanted all of these black protesters. They wanted all of these black activists to get violent. That would give them the perfect excuse for more violence, to put them in jail. It would also kinda like, um, solidify their racism, that black people are violent criminals, right? They're gonna do the same to us. So we need to take that lesson from Martin Luther King. We need to stay peaceful. Peaceful protest. He, FOTUS, is gonna look for any excuse to declare martial law, to put troops on the street, to start rounding us up. We need to do this peacefully. And this is coming from someone who is brimming with fucking rage. I am boiling with rage every time I see another story about a woman getting, essayed, that Giselle woman in France whose husband drugged her for years, to this Republican senator who was defending Hegseth and said, "We've all assaulted women, and I'd be in jail if it wasn't for my wife." I am brimming with rage. And I'm saying this as a woman who is brimming with rage. We need to do this non-violently, because as soon as we get violent, it validates everything they think about us, every excuse they have to use violence against us. So I think that is the third lesson we can get from the example of Martin Luther King. We need to protest peacefully. Use our voices, use our bodies to march on the streets, but we cannot resort to violence. It won't change anything. Martin Luther King knew that. So we need to redirect that rage. Yes, Gonzo. Thank you. I mean, is any other women, are you feeling like I'm just feeling this, and also as a survivor, uh, the rage. I mean, there are parts of me like that just feel like I'm this close. I'm teetering on the edge. You know, enraged, yeah, the rage, it's real, and the screaming in the desert, I'm still going out and screaming in the desert, it does help, and the journaling is definitely helping, but, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take it. I don't have any immediate Trump supporter family that I speak to. My mom is not a Trump supporter. I just wanna make that very clear. My mother is intelligent. My mother is not a Trump supporter. No, no. So I don't have any, the only immediate family who does I don't speak to, so Uh, yeah, because yeah, I won't get into that. Love Maddie, exactly, being a survivor, and there are too many of us. That Giselle story, her husband over years, I mean, that wa just yeah, it's a lot. It was a lot. A B was that a BLM rally? It might have been. Screaming does help, Carol. Yeah. Yay, Kaylee, your immediate family and all your neighbors did not vote for him. Good, good. Alright, let me see, I had a couple more things. Oh, so those are the lessons, and I'm gonna recap. The lessons that I think that we can glean from the example of Martin Luther King Jr. Number 1, never give up. Never give up. Voting is not enough. We need to get involved. Think about everything that Martin Luther King was arrested 29 times. Um, hang hang on. Sorry about that, I forgot to put my phone on silent. Let me put my phone on mute real quick. Alright. Uh, yeah. So never give up. Voting is not enough. Democracy is not a spectator sport. We need to get involved. Number 2, organize. And just one of the biggest attributes, or one of the biggest things that Martin Luther King did, is he organized people. He got people motivated, and what's the other word I'm looking for? When you put people in motion. Organized, no, there's another word. What's that when you put people in motion? Anyway, he did that. And 3rd, and especially, is the lesson that we can learn from Martin Luther King's example, is to approach all of this in a peaceful, non-violent way. Violence isn't going to solve anything, it's only gonna make things worse, and when we do see violence by people on our side, we need to speak out against it. We need to, uh, talk let people know this is not okay, it's only gonna make things worse. Sadie for president. I think so. I wanna get a bumper sticker that says, "My dog is smarter than a Trump supporter." I'm sorry. Accountable, no. What's that word when you get people, um, gosh, marching forward? What is the word? I hate menopause. Not motivated. Oh my god, there's a word for it that, activists use. Sadie, what are you doing? Wanna say hi? Mobilized! Thank you, Jesse, you win. Yes, mobilized. So, thank you. Mobilized, you got it. Jesse Raven. But yeah, you know, that's what he was able to do. He was able to mobilize people. So, thank you, Jesse. My brain. Alright, and alright. So, how can we resist? One of the things that I have been thinking a lot about is that we need to choose a cause. We need to choose what we are passionate about. And it's okay if you're a black woman and you wanna fight for black women's rights, if you're a white woman and you wanna fight for black women's rights, if you are an LGBTQ person and that is where your focus is going to be, that's okay. You don't have to do everything, you don't have to be everything to everybody, and I think it's gonna be overwhelming if we think we need to be there for everybody, right? I mean, if you wanna be great, if you wanna get your hands wet, your feet wet in every single cause that you care about, that's great, but I think that would be overwhelming for a lot of people, so choose one cause. Immigrants, if it's overwhelming for you to think about being in multiple places at once, maybe it's immigrants and immigration. Uh, like I said, maybe it is, black women's rights, or, young black men's rights, or LGBTQ youth, or whatever it is. Choose one area for now that you are going to focus on. One area. Number 2, how you can resist. So choose your cause and be vocal. Be loud and be persistent. Be a pain in the ass. We cannot sit back and pass our vote every 4 years, every 2 years, and say, "Okay, I've done enough." And especially as women, our world would thrive under a matriarch. And a matriarchy does not mean that we would take power the way men have. It just means that we would govern the way women are. We would be more inclusive. We would be more considerate and caring of other people and other groups for the most part. That's what a matriarch would look like. Oh, thank you. Claudette Cloven. Colvin. Oh, thank you, Colvin. I said CL. Thank you. It's Colvin. I mistyped that. So it's Claudette Colvin, not Cloven. I apologize for that. I should have been more careful. Thank you, Deb. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I you know what? And when I let me see if I wrote that. No, I wrote Cloven. I am really sorry. Thank you for the correction. Bye, Kathy. Thank you for being here. All right. So Colvin. Colvin, not Cloven. Claudette Colvin. So be vocal, be loud, be persistent. Okay. If you, especially if like my social media on my personal side are all like-minded people for the most part. Like, I don't know, family members who don't follow me. Some of them I've blocked. There's good reason for that. But if you have a personal Facebook page and you have people from both sides following you, maybe stop sharing the Trump supporters stupid memes. Instead, share truth, share stories, share facts, especially about what is going to be happening in this administration. Do it often, be loud, and be persistent about it. Next, use your social media platform no matter the size. So, I just said that. No matter I don't whether you have 10 followers or several thousand or million followers, use your social media platform to continue to speak truth to power, truth to lies, to spread stories like some of the stories I have shared with you today. It's important. They are going to wanna erase history. They are literally going to try to erase history. They're gonna change history. He's already I saw a headline this morning in his inauguration speech. He said that America is unified behind his message of making America great again. He said he is bringing America together. As I'm sitting there in tears, like millions of other Americans, I'm sitting here woke up in tears with a punch in the gut this morning, and he has the nerve to stand up there and say he's unifying the country when half of us are fucking scared out of our minds. He will try to rewrite history. He will try to make lies truth. It is up to us to challenge. It is up to us to tell the truth, no matter how big your social media platform is. I get it, Cat Mac. You had to block all of them. I get it. All right. Be in the pain. Number 4 of how we can resist is be a pain in the ass with your elected officials. Write to them, call them, email them every day. I said this in another video. If you can't do anything else, make calling your representatives a part of your morning routine. Cup of coffee, call my senator. Cup of coffee, call my other senator. Every single day. And that means though that you are going to need to stay on things that are going on in Congress, things that are going to be up for vote. Be a pain in the ass, call them every day. If you want, call them 5 times a day, email them, but be a pain in the ass. Let them know you are here. Let them know you voted or you are a voter, so even if they're MAGA, call them anyway. Call pressure, our pressure, our voices are the only things that's gonna stop this slide into fascism. And even the stupid Republican ones need to hear from us. Sorry. Stupid Republican, they know what they're doing, you know? They know what they're doing. Alright, last one, and then, I gotta stop talking for a minute. Donate and subscribe. Oh, for MLK, in honor of, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, subscribe to the NAACP and donate. And, there are a million causes that you can support, but today, in honor of Martin Luther King, and I should have actually made this a fundraiser, donate to the NAACP. They are going to continue to do really important work to ensure the rights of Black Americans aren't stripped away any they're gonna be on the front lines of this fight for Black Americans, so donate to them if you can. If not, they have a newsletter, they have things that you can do on their website, ways that you can get involved. So go to the NAACP website and, see what you can do to get involved to support their work and, continue to spread the message, to spread the, activism that Martin Luther King started. That's it. That's all I have. That was a lot. Wow, we've been on it over an hour and a half, but let me know what you're thinking. Money can talk, but voting talks louder, and you can vote with your dollar. Don't forget, I've been using the Goods Unite Us app like crazy to make decisions about where I spend money. I mean, there are a million things I've covered in other videos I can continue to cover. I will try to do a video about how to fight back against Meta or Facebook without actually quitting Facebook. I've already got all the notes and all the research on that. I just need to shoot the video. So, uh, how y'all feeling? Big group hug. Yes, Gonzo. Big, huge group hug. How y'all feeling? Did this help? Are you feeling any more hopeful than you were earlier? Bye, Wild Bill. Thank you for being here. Limiting, yeah, limited shopping. So Rite Aid is good? Did you say Costco and Rite Aid? Oh, Aldi. Oh, Aldi is good. Oh my god. Speaking of which, guess which food store that I shop at all the time that voted almost straight Republican, at least their CEO. Any guesses? It felt good to vent. Okay. You're feeling a little bit better. The info was good. Good, it helped. Okay. Yeah, well, Whole Foods we know because that's owned by Bezos, but they actually no, not Trader Joe's, Sprouts. Look up Sprouts. What a freaking disappointment. The CEO, like 100% to Donald Trump. Sprouts. You feel more inspired. So whenever you feel like giving up, I know about Sprouts, right? Huge bummer. But there is still local co-ops, of course, and natural grocers if you have it. Yeah, Victor, yes. So oh, Sprouts has been bought out by Kroger? You definitely helped me. Alright, so I'm gonna start to sign off here just real quick. I shared all of this information about Martin Luther King today because I think he had some very good messages that we can all walk away with. The nonviolence, organizing, find ways to organize in your community, even if it's a book club. Maybe start a book club reading banned books. Maybe it's a book club reading stories of other revolutionaries. Maybe read about Rosa Parks or Claudette Colvitz or other women voices or Black women voices who have not been heard. Start a start a club about for helping immigrants in your community, or if you're a lawyer, maybe you can organize around helping immigrants who might be facing deportation or other civil rights, or if you're a healthcare provider, maybe because we're all worried about what healthcare is gonna happen. There are a million different things though that you can do to organize, to create community, to help your neighbors. And I think that's really where it's all going to happen at the micro level within our communities. Start getting out more, creating community around the things that we're passionate about, and that in the end, I think is gonna bring us back together. So, if you start feeling discouraged again, just pick a story of someone who who has risked everything to make the world a better place. All right? And I'm gonna sign off. Thank you all so much for being here today. It really Oh, Sprouts was bought by Kroger's. I did not know that. But anyway, thank you very much for being here with me today. This helped me too. I'm feeling kind of funky about everything. And I enjoy sharing history. I enjoy learning new things. I did learn some new things as I researched for this today. But stay tuned. I've got some videos coming up for you, some more things that we can do to kind of fight back against this. Thank you, Richard, for being here and moderating, and thank you to my new moderator. Shoot, who was it? Oh my gosh, I forgot who it was. Arlene. Thank you, Arlene, for being here and being a moderator. Everybody give a huge round of applause to uh, Arlene and Richard for moderating. And I will see you soon. Take care of one another and try to let's all like try to find let's do something for someone else today, even if it's small, even if it's just calling a friend and saying, "Hey, how you doing?" Let's just find a way to do something kind for someone else. Mwah. I'll see you soon. Bye.